Welcome.
We have been trained from kindergarten through high school and even college how to work for somebody else.
Presented to you by...
Some people sit through 25, 30, 40 years of a job that they hate because they don't know another way out. Well, what is it, morning? It's still morning. Good morning to everybody. Welcome to the Exodus podcast, powered by The Difference. I am host Nate Smith, along with Lendon Wilson, who I'll bring in here. And Lendon has been just instrumental in bringing together a wonderful group of entrepreneurs and leaders that really want to set out to make the difference in their own lives and the lives of others and the lives of their clients and contacts and people that work with them. So if you notice that we are missing the other half of our show today, Blake Timmons had a bit of a scheduling conflict. So we have a fantastic opportunity to talk about him behind his back, because there's no way that he would ever be able to hear what we're talking about, even though this is live on the internet. So, but it is great to be here with you guys. I'm broadcasting from outside today, which is a beautiful day. Get a little Texas action in the background here. So it's really great to be with you guys. We're going to talk about some things today that I think is really, we've been diving in a lot to mindset of the entrepreneur and what it looks like to really separate yourself from this corporate or 9-to-5 employee mindset. And we're talking about, if you watched the end of the show last week and saw some of the promo material, 5 things that entrepreneurs need to give up in order to be successful. Now, on top of that, there's 5 things that they need to fight for. And depending on what our time allows today, because I think we could talk about each of these for a long time, we may have to push that back to another show. One of the things we like to do on The Difference, and is, if you've watched any of the other shows for a while, is kind of cross promote, bring in different people from different shows. If you have not got a chance to listen to Redefining Real Estate with Brian Dobbs, it's every Tuesday at 11 a.m. I'm going to bring Brian in right now. And Brian is a fantastic guy, a brilliant guy, just has some really phenomenal concepts about real estate, leveraging the equity in your home, and just really doing some amazing things in ways that you probably would not otherwise think about. So, Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you and just give us a little recap on what drives you, what your show's about, how you kind of got started, and just take us down that path, if you would.
Absolutely. And first and foremost, thanks for having me on your show, Nate. It's always good to see you. Good to see you, Lendon, as well. So Redefining real estate has been one of my passions. I've been in the industry for 25 years. I've worked in various roles for the real estate industry. And I noticed a few changes that I would like to see. I noticed a few things that I could do different, especially in owning a home and buying a home and selling a home. Not buying a home like I'd buy a car, not owning it like I would rent an apartment, not selling it just hoping and praying that I'm going to make money, but actually strategically purchasing, owning, and selling actually will create leverage for you and your family, build better neighborhoods, better communities. And we talk about those. And one of the neat things about this, Nate and Lendon, this show, Redefining Real Estate, we bring in other partners. We bring in home warranty, inspectors, insurance, financial planners. We bring in all the people that would be a part of a real estate transaction or part of wealth building transactions. So people can actually see a holistic approach to owning real estate, utilizing it as an active asset versus a passive asset.
Fantastic. So I know when you and I talked, I was we don't want to spend too much time going into the detail. I'll let people listen to your show, or hopefully they can meet with you. But when you explained, it kind of blew my mind, just thinking about the money that people have sitting in their homes and what they can do with it, from even, getting out of debt, but also leveraging that into more properties and then just kind of compounding those efforts over not a long period of time, honestly. And when you walk them through that system, it just makes a whole lot of sense to me. So I will encourage everybody to check his show out. Now, are you going out of town? You bailing for next week? Or are you still going to be on going somewhere for Thanksgiving? Or
no, we're still on. So
excellent.
Let's Lendon and the difference just bail. I'm here.
I had plans to be out of town next week, but we're starting a new show. So fortunately for Brian and James Kern and Holly Haggard and all the rest, we're going to do shows till Wednesday next week. We'll be running replays on Thanksgiving Day. I will be gone then, but I'm gonna stick around.
Then Lendon's gonna go kill him a gigantic buck for Thanksgiving. Is that the plan?
That's the plan. That's
okay.
The plan.
Well, very good. Well, Brian, I know that you have a few minutes. Brian obviously, being the successful person that he is, has about 3 or 4 clients he's got to meet with here in the next 15 or 20 minutes. But he's got about 10 minutes left with us. And I wanted him just to give us, we're going to talk about what I mentioned earlier, 5 things that entrepreneurs need to give up. And I'm not going to mention those yet, but I asked Brian as we were preparing for the show, walk us through your journey about, you were used to be in corporate America. Obviously, something happened that kind of led you to be a business owner, to go in a different direction. During that process, what were some of the things you felt like you had to change or kind of revolutionize about yourself? It's almost like tearing down and building back up in a sense in order to be successful. What are one of those things that you felt like you had to give up in a sense?
Absolutely. So Nate, one of the things, and we talked a little bit about it backstage, was mindset. And I know that we emphasize and highlight, and we're probably very repetitious on that one word mindset. But I can just tell you, when I came out of corporate America, I had one job, one duty, one role, one expectation, and let's just simplify it that way. And yeah, it was multifaceted in my roles, my responsibilities, and my expectations. But when I became an entrepreneur, I actually had to have a complete mindset shift.
That's hard to say.
It is. And Lendon, I think I rocked that one this time.
You did.
So,
you kicked butt on that one because I really almost blew it last week.
You did. And it was really funny. Brian Tedesco was on my show last week or a couple weeks ago, and he did not say shit.
Sometimes people have the other one, and that's also a problem as well.
It is.
Maybe that was my problem.
I'm just not going to repeat it, guys. I mean,
you did it. You need to let that one go. You did it perfect, and you need to move on now.
So once that transition occurred, see, I used a different word. Once that transition occurred, and I actually had to see business from a different lens, I began to break it down into different compartments and different areas, because I knew that as a business owner, I was still responsible for building out the infrastructure, the processes, the systems of my business like an engine. And then getting into a managerial side of, you know what, I actually need to bring in a team of people that can focus on these individual silos, so to speak, and run those efficiently and effectively so we can begin to grow a business, begin to grow a team. Increase our capital, our cash flow, so we can invest in other items. So it was a completely change. It was a huge change for me. But once you wrap your hands around it and your head around it, you can conceptualize it as well as take a deep dive. It's a lot of fun building it.
Let me ask you this, kind of a personal question. Was there anything that when you were getting this process started, I mean, everybody in business has obstacles. They have, things that they come up against. Can I do this? Is this going to work? Am I an idiot for trying out? What is something that kind of hit you in the face as an obstacle that you said, am I doing the right thing? Am I supposed to be going down this route? I'm assuming, we haven't talked in detail, I'm assuming everything wasn't just easy breezy, easy peasy, whatever the term is for you. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. So I did hit it. I hit a major roadblock. I love speaking. I like this stuff, and I can do this all day, every day. But I leaned way heavily on what I love to do, and I forgot to do, abdicated, relinquished, did whatever I need to stay away from the hard things. And becoming an entrepreneur, it looks fantastic. We're looking at financial independence, freedom of time. Oh my goodness, I can go on vacation whenever I want. I'm going to make a ton of money because I'm really good at XYZ. And I had to find out that my XYZ was not going to bring in any money unless I had this massive engine behind it that would promote and sustain my gifts, my talents, my skill set. So I really had to confront issues in what I was advocating, what I was letting go, what I was becoming very passive with, and say, you know what, Brian, you need to suck it up. Put your pants on and get up out of bed and start doing the tough stuff and get really good at it, so you can have a pulse on what your business is like.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I deal with that with people talking about their finances with them. Like, everybody they see the attractive side in whatever the endeavor is. Like you talked about, I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to go on vacation and freedom of time. But we don't realize that there's a journey to get there. And it's not always an easy journey. I mean, with people and their finances, a lot of people, it's much more fun to save for retirement than it is to be properly insured. But if you're not properly insured and something happens to you, well, now you don't have any retirement. So with finance, just like any business, there's a proper order and a correlation between success and things that you've got to lay the groundwork for and build on. Otherwise, everything falls down, everything crumbles. And I think that's kind of the point that you were making there. So I want to respect your time. We got about 3 minutes, and Brian's got to jump off here. But Brian, just give us some encouragement, if you would. Kind of where you're at lately, some things that you've had some success with, and if you were sitting down with somebody that says, "Hey, I got to get out of corporate America. I've got to do something different. What's my pathway? I mean, what should I be thinking about? How should I approach that transition?"
Great question. I think I would sum it up if I can spend 45 seconds and do this, and this will be definitely a Cliff Note version, is to have a well laid out plan. First and foremost, I believe that if you have the direction, your vision, if you understand your message, your signature message, your audience, you understand the processes, the intricacies of what you want to do, you understand the transaction, how are you going to generate the income, and then you understand the value of retention, customer retention, as well as a partner retention. And we talk about that a lot with Lendon and behind the scenes. But creating a team of people has been absolutely beneficial, critical to my success. And it's not always easy finding those people and aligning those core values. It takes a lot of work. It some long nights, it's some sleepless nights, and sometimes of heightened anxiety. However, in the long run, you know what, it pays off. It just does. No different than the gym, no different than any discipline that you have to better yourself, you better your family, better your finances. Starting a business, being an entrepreneur is a disciplined practice.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Oh, I just I agree 100%. I mean, we talk about branding, we talk about your behaviors, and Brian, you mentioned mindset. It is the foundation of how we approach everything else, because we see everybody's highlight reels. A lot of times we get into a job, a career, or a business because we saw everybody else being successful. What we didn't see is the 15 years they put into it where they were just struggling. And we want what they have right now. We don't necessarily understand what they went through to get there. So mindset is going to be key, because that's what's going to keep you in there. That's what's going to keep you committed to your commitment.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, Brian, man, I know you got to go. I appreciate you jumping on. Make sure you guys check out Redefining Real Estate every Tuesday, even before Thanksgiving. It'll be on. Maybe it'll be a special Thanksgiving show. Who knows?
But Brian, thank you so much. It's going to be a special Thanksgiving show. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. You guys have a great week.
We'll have you back on when you can stay a little bit longer next time. So, but I appreciate you coming on. Have a good day.
Yes, sir. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Okay, Lendon. So let's dive in here. We talked about 5 things entrepreneurs need to give up. And I think you said you had them on the screen here. The first one, are we going to put them up one at a time?
One at a time. I think that's better if we just do it one at a time. I'm on the spot, man. I got it.
You got it covered. Number 1, staying in your comfort zone. Staying in your comfort zone. Okay. So we've talked about this before. I know when one of our earlier shows talking about just this illusion of security, right? Having things feel like they're in place. I've got great benefits. I've got a 9-to-5 job. I've got, this paycheck that's basically guaranteed. I got to really do a lot to screw that up and get fired, that kind of a deal. I make great money. I have an unlimited ceiling in sales. People say all this stuff all the time until they don't, right? And we have seen nobody would have thought this, but a worldwide pandemic. That's one of those things that happens in a sci-fi movie. Yeah. Well, yeah, whatever. Something you can argue that's another story, but obviously there has been a massive disruption in the economy. We'll just leave it
Agreed.
at that.
Yes.
And people have suffered in a very huge manner. But when it comes to staying in your comfort zone, we feel like that if all these things are kind of provided, we've got this cush environment, everything's going to kind of work out. I don't want to take a risk. I don't want to step outside the boundary. I don't want to think outside the box. And again, with everything that we say, it's not a I'm not being critical, right? You're not a bad person because you have a great job that you love and you work hard. And if you work hard and you take care of your family, you're doing a great job. But there's still an element where if you're going to make the shift, if there's something about the corporate world or the 9-to-5 job that is not you and you want to make that shift, it's going to be uncomfortable, right? I talk to people all the time, when I'm looking for clients or, networking or bringing on new agents, and sometimes you get weird looks. Sometimes you get no's, you get all kinds of stuff that is not desirable necessarily. You got people claiming that that they think they understand exactly what you do and they don't at all. And it's uncomfortable, right?
Yes, sir.
But in order to grow, you've got to go beyond that. You've got to say, in a sense, screw that. You're not a jerk about it, but you know where you're going and you know how you're going to get there. So Lendon, tell me, when you think of staying in your comfort zone, obviously the appeal is in the statement. It's comfortable, but what is it in your experience that makes it so hard for people to branch out away from that comfort zone?
It's the fear of the unknown, right? And the fear of failure. We don't want to fail. And I think as an entrepreneur, you have to accept and almost embrace the fact that you're going to fail. It's all trial and error. It really is. It's kind of like being a parent, right? You don't have all the answers, and you can raise one child one way and you're going to have to raise another child another way. Everything doesn't fit necessarily in a box. And so you are on your toes constantly. And so I think that the comfort zone that we look for is what we're most familiar with, and it's a self-protection mechanism, so to speak. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to have to fail. I don't want people to see me fail. I don't want to try something new because of the learning curve that it takes to get to where I'm going to need to be. So I'm just going to sit right here where I know what tomorrow is going to bring me. And within that, knowing what tomorrow is going to bring you as far as your challenges, you also know what tomorrow is going to bring you as far as your reward. And that can be limited. And, I think that for far too many of us, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you have to challenge yourself to get out of the comfort zone, because if you don't, the person that enjoys you being in your comfort zone more than anybody else, including yourself, is your competitor. They love the fact that you want to sit in the comfort zone, because while they're out busting their tail, learning new things, taking risk, they're leaving you behind.
Yeah, and I think, I was just I was thinking about well, I'll get to that in just a second, but I think that we live in a society nowadays that puts a big emphasis on, even if we don't intend to, on what other people think, right?
Yeah.
And so if you look at history, if you look at the your Rockefellers and Carnegie and even a guy like Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk, to a lot of people, is kind of nuts, but he's brilliant. And do you think he cares what other people think about him?
Nope.
Not a bit. He is the epitome of not being in a comfort zone. I mean, this guy is showing up NASA, basically. I mean, partly because he's not
I thought about that yesterday. Isn't that incredible? But, I mean, what he's been able to do.
He's already sent 2 teams into space. He built a rocket that lands itself. We've been going into space since, 1963, 61, when we sent up the first satellite?
Yep.
After the Russians beat us. Anyways, it's a whole nother story. But, you can just tell that guy is wired a little bit differently. And I think actually I heard that he might be on the spectrum a little bit. That doesn't really matter one way or the other, but it is in a sense of wiring differently. And it shows that he just doesn't care. I mean, he's a really nice guy. He's brilliant, seems to be a nice guy, but he has a vision that is far greater than any of his competitors. Right. And instead of being defined, I mean, look at California. I mean, California is a terrible place to live right now from a business standpoint because of the regulations, taxation. He gave the middle finger to them, and he's getting ready to move and open up a plant in Texas and open up plants elsewhere. And I don't know if you saw this, Lendon, but he got and I don't remember, I wish I remembered which congressman it was. He got a note from a state congressman in California when he talked about moving out of there and basically just railroading California for their poor business, small business or large business landscape. And the email basically said, "F you, Elon." That was pretty much the end of it. This is an elected official that has that level of maturity. But again, doesn't bother him, right? He just up and moves, and he's getting ready to, open. I think, did they already open up the plant in Austin?
I don't think so. I think they're developing the land, if I'm not mistaken. But Nathan, have you ever seen the meme that says the lion does not concern himself with the opinions of the sheep?
I have seen it before, yes, and it's exactly.
I love that. I really do. I love that, and I think that we have to be very, very careful because a lot of well-meaning friends and family members will deter us from chasing a dream.
And they want to look out for us. They're trying to look, it's good intentions.
Right. But we want to, a lot of times we encourage the people we care about to take the safe bet, to take the safe route, to stay in the comfort zone.
Yeah, you can't be inspired to chase your dream getting advice from people that have only spent their life chasing a paycheck. Right?
Yeah.
So that's
they don't know. I mean, here's are you going to take advice from someone that's never been there? Right?
Right.
I mean, if they've never built a business, if they've never stepped outside of their comfort zone, and we're not criticizing those people. One of the things that you mentioned in the beginning, you talked about if you're happy and you feel good where you are, then that's really all that matters. But if you have a dream, if you aspire for more than what your current job gives you, if you believe there's more inside of you, don't let anybody talk you out of that. Okay. Now there's ways, and this is what I love about what you guys do. There are ways to hedge your bets, right? So being an entrepreneur is risky. You don't want to quit your job tomorrow without knowing what you're going to do the day after.
Yes, definitely don't do that.
No, but there's so many. I've done that. Look, man, almost 30 years ago, in less than 2 weeks, I quit a job in Arkansas and moved to Dallas with no job. because I was ready to go. I was ready for something different. That comfort zone had grown uncomfortable. And so I wanted to move to Dallas. I wanted to get involved in the fitness industry in a small town in Arkansas. There wasn't much of a demand for personal trainers and things like that. My original dream would have been to move to California. Now it wouldn't. There's not enough money out there. But because I had a young son, I decided Dallas, Texas was as far as I could go without being able to see him on a regular basis. And so I packed up and I moved here. But it's kind of like one of my friends, he actually liked our show. He's real big about saying you got to burn the ships. And I did. I burned them. I caught a plane. I flew down here. I stayed with a friend for a couple of months. And then I started, personal training. I don't recommend that for everybody, because especially at that point in time, I had a young son, but I wasn't. I was going through a divorce, and so it was I had to take care of him, but I had to take care of me, right? So I was in a good situation to make that move. A lot of people can't walk away from a job because of their family commitments, and you don't want to do that. So how do you hedge your bets? How do you take that risk? But you take it in a manner that the odds are in your favor. And I think you guys provide some guidance on that, if people are looking for something more than what their everyday job's giving them, their 9-to-5's giving them, I think that what y'all do is one of the best opportunities they could have.
Well, I appreciate that. And I completely agree. If
of course you do.
I'd be doing something different.
Of course you do.
But yeah, and there's times when you're dealing with clients or you're looking for people to come work with you that you get some weird. I mean, you get some no's, you get some. I've actually been really blessed because sometimes family in any type of endeavor can be your biggest obstacle. I know a guy that works with us. His family was just like, hell no, this is terrible, right? Don't you're what the heck are you doing? And he was like you. He quit his job 3 days later and said, we're going all in. And his family was like, you're an idiot. Turns out he was not an idiot, which has been great. But there's uncomfortable times. There's awkward conversations. There's things, I talk to people all the time that say, I don't think I can succeed in helping, in finance, which it's not, we're not doing trading we're not trading bonds or trading Forex or something. It's literally personal finance, helping people, growing businesses. It's not difficult from a standpoint of the concept, right? Anybody can do what we do. The difference lies in is the commitment to the longevity of the success and the growth that we're having and we're going to have and we're going to continue to have. That has obstacles. So it's not actually what we're doing. It's the mindset to succeed in the way that we're going to succeed and have already succeeded, right? So that's where people, I don't know if I can do that. Well, that's exactly why you should. Because what you're telling me is that I am comfortable here, even though it's not that comfortable. Like, we'll stay in an uncomfortable comfort zone, basically. Like, we call it a comfort zone. You've heard of the deal where, like, I don't know if you've ever been in a relationship where the person is always sabotaging it. Like, they are more comfortable in discontent and dismay and disarray and all the other dis words than they are in a healthy relationship. And I think that's a lot of how people are sometimes. People would rather, they're more comfortable in the misery that they know than the potential, green pastures that they don't know. Right.
Right.
And so they'll sit there, and people do that. How many people have stayed in a toxic relationship just because they don't know how to get out of it? Right. It's the same thing. It's almost the same thing.
It really is the same thing. And you're right. I think that we stay in places that it just may not be fulfilling our dream. It may not be fulfilling what we feel like life is supposed to be about, but we do that out of fear that if I take a step out of here and it doesn't work out, what are people going to say about me and to me? And when I think about that, I don't quite understand that. You know, if you're not a good enough friend that you can tell me I was excuse the line, you can tell me I was a dumbass for what I tried to do, but the thing is I'm going to fight to figure it out. I mean, just because I tried it one way and it didn't work doesn't mean I can't try it another way and it won't eventually work.
Right.
And for me, it's more about the journey than just the result. I love the challenge of it. I really do. I can't imagine myself doing anything but being a business owner and we'll talk about this later, but being in charge of the direction of where I'm going. Nathan, let's move on I want to move on to the next one now, because I think this ties in a little bit to where we are with what we're talking about.
Let me just say one last thing on this part.
Sure.
One of the things that going back to Blake, and I know you, so he's been in, Blake has had some other business endeavors. Obviously, we all have. He did some different investments. Some worked out well, some did not. Some other companies, some worked out well, some did not. But in that time, I mean, I never said to him, "Oh, I can't believe you're doing this. What an idiot," And he would not have ever said the same thing to me. So my point is, why, if we have people that are, it's one thing to be like, Blake, maybe you got to think about this, or you think this is a good idea, going through some discernment with people that you're close to. But if you really have these people that you're worried about what they're going to think of you for trying something, for being bold and taking some things, taking some calculated chances, then it might be a good idea to revisit who your friends are. Now, you can't do anything about your family, okay? Family is going to be family. Hopefully you have a good one. Some people don't. There's not a lot you can do about that. But if you have a group of people that are going to be that are that afraid of your success or going out on a limb, taking a chance, it might be worth revisiting who is in your friend circle. Just something to think about there.
Let me ask you a question. Are we afraid of facing the reality when we do that, Nathan? Because I think that some people that profess to be our biggest supporters may not actually be our biggest supporters, because if we step out and we make something more of ourselves than what we currently are, does that not put pressure on them? I mean, they have to look at it and go, okay, well, you did this. Now, what do I do? Do I have to admit that I'm scared to attempt something, that I love my comfort zone? I hope all that's making sense, because I think that a lot of people will discourage us because they are intimidated by us doing better or more than them, and them not knowing how to deal with our success.
It goes back to like the just bullying in general, right? Like why do kids bully other kids? Well, what it comes down to is they are themselves insecure. They have something that they haven't, maybe it's a bad home life, maybe it's something, I don't know. When they pick on somebody and they get all these kids riled up in their corner, well, now they feel something that they feel like they've been missing. And there's something about how they treat other people that makes them feel better. And so in a sense, it's almost like a very subtle subconscious bullying. It's not as overt, but people want you to stay on their level in a sense. Because exactly what you said, if you're not finding the support you need for your goals and dreams, well, you, by stepping out and challenging yourself, you are in fact challenging the status quo of the group that you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
And you're exactly right that you will get that pushback. And sometimes the pushback, instead of looking at it in a negative light, it should inspire you to know that you're at least on the right path.
I agree.
The right motive. Maybe the path is, sometimes the path needs to be revisited, but you have the right motive because you've struck a chord with the people that you surround yourself with that they weren't willing to strike in themselves, right? So yeah, let's move. We're like I said, we said earlier, we could probably talk about any one of these for an hour.
We could.
The second one, I think this is the one we are going to get stuck on for a long time. But and actually, let's do this too, because let's put three up there too, or just flop back and forth. So they kind of go hand in hand, being a victim and making excuses. Right now, sometimes when you hear the word victim, that emotes a lot of different thoughts from people. There's a political element to that. There's a historical element to that. There's, people can claim victimhood in any capacity they want to. And let me just put this out here. There are real victims in all kinds of different things: abuse, crimes, family situations, whatever the case may be. There is such thing as an actual victim, obviously. Hey, nice. Look at that. That's great. That was on the fly.
Wow.
Very good.
I'm getting better.
That's
Thanks.
good. But, and this might make people mad, but no matter if you are a victim, there is still a mentality by which you elevate whatever happened, that it becomes oppressive to your continued development and growth. Now, that's a harsh reality, because sometimes whatever the victimization is, whether it's in business, whether it's something personal, it's a big deal, right? It can be very impactful, very traumatizing. But if that becomes who you are, you will always be stuck in that position, right? In that reality. And thus, that leads into number 3. So now you have a victimhood mentality that allows you to comfortably make excuses about why you can't succeed. And you see this on large scale issues, you see this on small issues, and we've all made excuses. We talk about that in our office, where, if we don't do something we're supposed to do, or we've fallen short, just say, hey, didn't happen, didn't get it done, and I'll get it next time. Where you don't make excuses, you just realize that, we always have to get better. So I think these two really correlate together, Lendon.
I agree.
And I'm sure I pissed somebody off by the way I did, but that's what I believe. So what are your thoughts?
Being a victim, first and foremost, takes all of your power away. If you allow yourself to be a victim and you find victimhood as your comfort zone, then you surrender, you relinquish control and the ability to change the outcome of things, because it's always going to be someone else's fault. And that's where the excuses start to come in. Now, again, when I talk about this, when you talk about this, and not speaking for you, but I understand you, we all are a work in progress. Okay. We all are. Human nature is going to allow us to feel sorry for ourselves. Sometimes it's going to allow us to make excuses. Sometimes I think that the self-awareness and the level of honesty that we can have with ourselves is what can change that. It's a constant battle for each and every person out there. The people that have become better at addressing that and having that self-awareness are the ones that seem to be more productive. Those of us that struggle with victimhood or struggle with excuses and maybe aren't, there's a meme. I talk about memes a lot, and I'm kind of a meme junkie, but I find a lot, it's kind of like some people's humor. I find a lot of truth in a lot of memes. And one is,
that's why they're so funny, because there is an element of truth in those.
There isn't, it requires a certain level of honesty to get your shit together. And, sorry for saying that. I hope I didn't offend anybody, but I just wanted to give what was on the meme. And I think that when we talk about mindset, one of the parts of mindset, Nathan, is the fact that we have to be honest. We have to go into what our endeavor, being honest with ourselves. Am I playing the victim? Am I making excuses? How can I change it? And am I willing to have someone like Nathan that is a good friend of mine and will be honest with me and hold me accountable and say, Lendon, it's like you said with Blake. Blake's done a couple of different things. You didn't bash him over it. Maybe you said, what would you have done differently? Okay, that's supportive. But that also caused some reflection to look and see how I could have done it differently so that next time I don't make that mistake. And that's kind of the iron sharpens iron type of thing that I think that you need as an entrepreneur. You've got to have those people around you that comfort you for a brief second, but kick your butt and get you out of victimhood as quickly as possible.
Well, one of the things, and I think talking about how.
Blake's watching. He's hearing us talk about him.
Don't feel sorry for yourself. No one else will. That's true. That's true. Self-pity is the seed of self-destruction. I feel like I'm reading Fortune Cookie, but keep going.
I don't know.
What have I done?
What have I done? Like, that's a question we've been asking about you for far too many years.
Yeah.
We were just discussing, Blake.
Now I'm totally off track.
We were discussing what a good friend Nathan is to you. And if and when you ever did or would fail, he wouldn't bash you for it. So
that's
there
right.
you go.
But talking about, the people that you surround yourself with, I think helps. It kind of ties in, number one. It helps you kind of check that mentality, the victim mentality. And again, I just want to, I always try to think about everything. It's probably the culture that we're in now. Everything is taken out of context. But, whatever experiences anybody has, I don't want to sound flippant and think that they're easy or they should just. I never would say get over anything. That's not the right attitude. And because I don't know people's stories, I don't know what they've been through. But I do know that if you don't grow from whatever experiences you have, you may be a victim, right? But maintaining victimhood is going to eventually oppress you to the point where you will never ever grow. There will always be a reason why you haven't succeeded. And
let me jump in real quick because I have a really good analogy about that. Okay, so everybody that knows me knows that I was in credit repair for 20 years, and when I would get people that would come to me to want to enroll in credit repair program, and understandably so, I got all kinds of excuses, and I'll be honest, I made some of them myself at some point. But all kinds of excuses, I went through a divorce. My wife or my husband messed up my credit. Someone stole my social security number and they got credit. There was a million reasons. And that's what I told him. There's a million reasons why your credit can get bad. You could lose a job. COVID could happen, but it's your responsibility to flip the script and change the direction of where you're going. And so, Nathan, when you talk about, you would never say to people, just get over it. I think that is a very insensitive way to approach it. But at the same time, in that honesty that we need to have with ourselves, the quicker we do get over it, the quicker we fight through it, whatever it takes to do that, the quicker we can start putting the pieces back together. And so we have to be careful not to allow temporary victimhood to lead to permanent victimhood, because that becomes a comfort zone in itself. If you're tying it back into the comfort zone, a lot of times it's really easy to get comfortable with people feeling sorry for us and having that excuse of why I didn't do what I needed to do and why I'm still not doing it.
And we surround ourselves, it's good to be, if it was some sort of abuse or just that, you were born into a rough family, you didn't have a lot of money growing up, you lost whatever the case may be, there's all these different support groups and things, which I think is certainly good. It's certainly good to surround yourself with people that have shared your experience and whatever the case may be. But if those people are themselves just kind of, what's a good word? Just kind of sitting in that situation where they themselves are not growing, well, now you've got a group of people that are enabling each other, right? So if you want to find people that have gone through your experience, find people that have gone through your experience and come out on the other side.
Absolutely.
They have overcome, right? And so you were talking about surrounding yourself with people. We had Sheldon Mallory on last week, a great guy, great business owner, just a very smart entrepreneurial mind, has a lot of successes, some failures he talked about too, but that's just part of the process, right? But, Sheldon and I, we like cigars. We like our cigars. So one of the places that being able to work from anywhere, one of the places we go, a cigar shop, everybody there, for the most part, is military, in law enforcement, multiple business owners, or used to be all people that have had some degree of success in their life, whether it be entrepreneurialism or just leadership of some sort. And it's really interesting. And the guys there probably won't give themselves the credit that I feel like they deserve, but you learn, man, I get challenged there a lot. You just listening to people, listening to their life stories, learning their successes, their failures, just getting to talk about, they talk a lot about history, which I absolutely love. But, and then with Blake and I and the leadership and the culture in our company and the people that have come before us that have really paved the way, there's a huge fount of resources. And we talked about this early on last couple weeks ago. With the internet and books and audio, there's no shortage of help that you need for whatever situation you have that is going to that is not basically available to you, whether it's physically going and sitting and learning at the feet of other people, resources, books, podcasts, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, it requires action, right? So you've got to make that step. And I love this list because, again, being a victim, even though whatever the atrocity was or whatever you're claiming, and I don't mean claiming like it's not true, but I'm claiming as in whatever you're saying happened. Even in the emotional impact that had on you, whatever it was, or just how you grew up, or whatever it is, it becomes comfortable, right? So that ties back into the first one. So now we have, when I was talking about people that are more comfortable in dysfunction than they are in something that's functioning well. So we get so used to our state of negativity, our state of, it's somebody else's fault or this happened to me, that now we're in a comfort zone that's not actually comfortable. We have basically created our identity as a victim, which now allows us to use that as an excuse machine. So I'm never going to get where I want to go or where you think I should be because of all of these things, right? And in so doing, that kind of leads into our fourth one, is that, if I somehow break out of this mold that I've created for myself, well, now what are people going to think, right? We're always curious about how we look in others' eyes. We talk about Facebook, and we create these picture perfect worlds of our lives, and people get Facebook envy. People get, everybody. I can't tell you how many people I follow on Instagram that every post is just of themselves, and I'm like, and sometimes that's because that's it's a makeup channel or something like that, and that's fine. But in general, we put a lot of emphasis on look at me or what will others think about me, right?
Right.
And so
the validation part, I need validation.
Right. And so in a victim mentality, in a staying in your comfort zone kind of mentality, we want to do everything we can. Part of being accepted into that status quo is that, everything's okay here. I'm normal. We all have struggles. We hear that all the time. Nobody's perfect, but we don't want to step out of that. We don't want to face the thing that we have to face. We don't want to not make our excuses. We don't want to take credit for our part in the situation, if there is one, which there usually is. And in so doing, we have basically said, I'm going to do everything I can to not appear abnormal, right? Not appear like I'm not fitting in, like I'm doing something beyond what everybody else is doing. And I think 1 through 3 really build on this and make it almost an addiction in and of itself, where I have to maintain what people think about me. And this goes far beyond business. We could have a whole psychological discussion on this, because we all do this in a sense, right, Lendon? Nobody wants to be the weirdo. Nobody wants to be the one that gets made fun of, but the most successful people in our country have always been kind of the fringe folk that didn't care that they were the outcasts, or they didn't care that everybody was laughing at them. They have a Noah mentality. Noah was crazy until it started to rain, right? And
That's
then
true.
He wasn't so crazy anymore.
That's true. Well, but Nathan, in business, and this is, I think for a lot of people, it's really hard when they go into entrepreneurship because of how much, especially in some service businesses, how much self-promotion they have to do. And a lot of these people are very humble, right? They don't like that spotlight being on them. Unfortunately, in many cases, it has to be. You have to, in branding and marketing, you have to build relevance. You have to garner some attention, or no one's going to know who you are and what you're doing. And so there has to be, one of the taglines that I have for the difference is success favors the bold. You've got to be bold. You have to have a decent boldness that allows you to stand out. You can still be normal, but you need to stand out. And there's an art to it. There really is. There's a science and an art to what you have to do, but you got to have the courage. And that's a big part of this, is you got to have the courage to take that step and take those risks, and then market yourself in a way that gets the attention, the type of attention that you want to be successful.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I'm looking up. I guess I'll save this. This is really going to make Blake mad that he's not on the show when I read this, but that's okay. That's what he gets for not being on the show. I'm going to hold off on that to the end and end with this very famous, I guess we'll call it a poem. It's more like we'll call it a poem. But as we go into, so number 4 and 5.
You and Blake read poetry to each other?
We do. Yeah, we really do. Sometimes when he can't sleep, he'll call me and be like, can you read a poem? No, that doesn't happen. That's weird. Talk about getting out of your comfort zone. And not worrying about
that's not being normal. That's not being normal, right. Nathan. You
see, man, I didn't care. I don't care what people think. I'm just kidding. So number 4 and number 5 really correlate together. We talk about appearing normal, but a lot of that is because we have this self-conscious desire to be approved. Now, this is not like everybody has this. Like, nobody wants to be hated. Nobody wants to be looked down upon. Nobody wants to be the weird person. We've all been made fun of at some point in growing up. We've all had those experiences. Nobody wants to be the oddball out. So we want to appear normal, and we want to appear normal because we want to hope that we get everybody's approval, right?
Right.
And here's the thing: when you talk about success favors the bold, all of these things, it's almost like a progression, right? When you get out of your comfort zone, you are able to face, the victimhood that you may have developed for yourself. Even if it's a real thing. When you do that, will you stop making excuses? Well, when you stop making excuses, now you can see that, hey, who cares what everybody else thinks, right? This normal has gotten me nowhere. So normal is a relative term. I'm going to create a new normal. We hear that new normal all the time now with the COVID stuff, which is a bunch of BS. But that's a whole nother story. You can create a new normal in your life, right? Where it's not what you've been doing your entire time. It's not what your family does. We talk about things like breaking the cycle. You hear this in families that have just, passed abuse on to generation to generation, or divorce generation to generation, or poverty generation to generation. You can break the cycle. You can create a new normal that doesn't appear normal to your circle, but now you have decided that I'm going to get everybody's approval by my success. And they will be and you don't even do it for that reason, but it's going to come. When you are successful, when you actually succeed, when you break off and do whatever journey you're on, right? Whatever business endeavor you're on, and you succeed at it, you're going to catch people's eye, right? And that's not necessarily why you want to do it. I don't think you should ever do something where you don't want to rub it in somebody's face. That's not the right mentality to have. But inevitably, your success is contagious, right? People see that, and you will get the notoriety that you desire, but because of what you've done, not because you're trying to, because you've changed the picture, right? You've changed the direction. You're not trying to fit into somebody else's mold. You've created the mold, and people are now trying to be like you.
Let me ask you a question. Difference. Let me ask you a question on that. Are we afraid sometimes, though, whether it's switching from corporate America to entrepreneurship, are we afraid? Because you mentioned this about, having abuse in your family, whatever it may be, and breaking free and starting your own new normal. In entrepreneurship, are we afraid sometimes that I'm going to have to leave this group of people behind that I may have known my whole life? and go to this group of people that do approve of these goals and the strategies and the new behaviors and the new attitude that I'm going to have in order to be a different person. A lot of times we are byproducts of the group of people that we're hanging around. And unless we're willing to give that up, and I think so many people fear that. And man, that's, for me, that's one of the toughest ones, because we have people that we've known our whole life that we love, but they truly may be the impediment through no fault of their own. They may be the impediment that's keeping us from stepping out and reaching more of our potential and realizing that, you know what? I mean, I'll give you an example, and I'm not patting myself on the back. When I left Arkansas, I left a lifelong group of friends behind and moved down here and only knew one person. I had to come down and meet a whole new group of people, but it gave me that opportunity now to find a circle of people that were accomplishing and achieving what it was that I really wanted to accomplish and achieve.
Yeah. And you know, to that point, we talk about the hope of gaining everyone's approval. Well, our nature, it's in our nature to want to be liked, right? To have some level of you know, one of the five love languages is oh my gosh, I'm just drawing a blank. What's the first one? Affirmation, right? Affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
So just feeling like you're doing well, like you're succeeding, that's not an abnormal thing to desire. But the problem is, the key word here is everyone's approval, right?
Right.
And you're never going to gain everyone's approval, because as you move and accomplish things that you believe you can accomplish and want to accomplish, you're going to ostracise some people that don't have that same vision.
You're not getting everyone's approval in your corporate job. You're not getting everyone's approval in your corporate job.
I mean, it really should be the farce of gaining everyone's approval, because it can't be done.
No.
But are you gaining the approval of people that are going to challenge you and lift you up and build you up and help you really get to where you want to go? Or are you going to be maintain those anchors in your life that basically drag you down to the bottom of the sea, and you're nothing but a buoy, you know, floating along through life and can't do anything on your own, right? You don't want to be that person. And I want to end with this, and this is one of Blake Timmons' favorite speeches. And it's written by Theodore Roosevelt. And the moment I start reading this, you'll know exactly what it is. But I think that it really sums up what we're talking about today. And next week, what we're going to do, I knew this wouldn't happen. I knew we wouldn't get to the 5 things entrepreneurs need to fight for. And
that's okay. You did a great job of getting through the first 5. That was good.
I know. And that's good, because I don't want to go too fast on some of these. But I think, you know, when we talk about staying in your comfort zone and, you know, being a victim, making excuses, the desire to appear normal, the hope of gaining everyone's approval, I think this very famous speech that Theodore Roosevelt gave really sums it up. And I'm just going to read it here. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who knew neither victory nor defeat. And I think that sums it up. It is better to be someone that is bold. You talked about success favors the bold, to go into the arena, to get bloody, to take some whops on the face, to get back up and say, okay, that didn't work. What am I going to change? Let's do this better. Let's keep fighting. Let's do all the things that I've got to do to be successful, rather than being the person outside the arena that just sits there and laughs and points. And we give so much power to those people, right? so much power to those people. And sometimes that person is also ourself. So we first have to start with our self-talk. And then, once we get that in check, now we've got to deal with the people in our lives, the people that are our influences. So what we want to make sure that we're not doing is, I love those cold, dark, timid souls that know neither victory or defeat. I mean, nothing sounds more miserable than that to me. And I hope that you guys, as we've talked today, are inspired, that you want to take a closer look. As always, Blake and I would love to talk with you about what we do. Being able to step out in a low risk endeavor and really change your life, do something revolutionary that helps people, that cares about people, and that brings you in a place that hopefully that you desire to go and have never been before. So our contact information, as always, is on the difference. Thank you again to Brian that jumped on. Thank you to Lendon. That is our time. Join us next week on actually 2 weeks from now, first Wednesday in December, 11 o'clock. We're going to continue down and we're going to flip it now. 5 things entrepreneurs need to fight for. Look forward to having some guests on the show then. Continue the conversation, guys. It's been a fantastic hour as always. Thank you for joining us on the Exodus. Have a great week. Talk to you later.
The Difference is a proud supporter of the following nonprofits. Creek and Timber Legacy, providing outdoor learning, hunting, and firearm therapy for veterans, first responders, and children with serious illness. You can find more info at creekandtimberlegacy.org. And Sharp Shoes. Through local schools and shelters, Sharp Shoes helps provide new shoes for countless needy people and their families. You can find more info at sharpshoes.org.